So, let's start with the E.I.T.H.R.
You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with D-Cal.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy D-Cal here, hosting the E.I.T.H.R podcast in Northern California. Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode number 76. Greatly appreciate it. Want to give a shout out to everyone who's listening here in Italy, to Alaska, to Australia, to Texas. Thank you very much. To Florida. Major shout out and prayers to everybody in the state of Ohio. If you know what's going on out there. Arizona, same thing with them. Want to give a shout out to all my people in Los Angeles who are tuning in, to the Bay Area. Big shout out to Walnut Creek. We had a nice little jump in listenership in Walnut Creek, California. East Bay is definitely in the building. So those who are new, welcome to the E.I.T.H.R podcast. The E.I.T.H.R podcast stands for the elephant in the room, where we like to discuss topics and issues and things that are trending or maybe difficult for people to have a conversation without getting yelled at, screamed at, or judged. So we try to look at everything from a multitude of perspectives from different viewpoints, so that way you have a more informed perspective or reason to agree or disagree with some of the things that you may have heard, read, or you believe in. You can follow us on social media. Instagram, Twitter is the same as the E.I.T.H.R, T-H-E-E-I-T-H-R. You can follow our YouTube page as well as our TikTok, which is under the parent company, the umbrella company, which is the GNS Inc. T-H-E-G-N-S-I-N-C. Okay, so what we have to do here, start off, for those who are not familiar with this, we like to do things a little bit different. So we like to give inspirational and give shout outs and motivational, inspirational quotes. So first thing I'm going to do is give a shout out to the state of Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio, and Arizona. It's really, really, really messed up what's happening out there. And if you're not familiar, I suggest you kind of look into that. Because thanks for social media, the world is being exposed to what's going on that isn't being talked about in the major news outlets, at least not yet. And usually the trend is once it starts to spread over social media, then most of the major outlets start to pick it up because, well, whatever they're trying to research, whatever they're trying to understand or get more clues or more evidence or more information, or if you believe what they're trying to cover up, social media exposes it at the speed of light, and these major news people, they have to talk about it. So go ahead and take a look into that. Never mind the UFO shit. That's cute. We've been knowing aliens were around back when Star Trek was a thing, right? So that's nothing new. But this right here, in my Cat Williams voice, this is important to know. Okay, so shout out to those people who are doing the best they can with the situation that they're in. Inspirational, motivational. There's a post that we put on our Twitter as well as our Instagram, and it goes a little bit like this: attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, mirror what you admire. I'll say that again: attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, mirror what you admire. A lot of times we have this belief in our own head. Certain things don't happen or not happening because we don't see it instantly. And there are some people who do believe in this instant gratification type of result system. When you go to a movie and you know it's a documentary about somebody or some people in the past, from rags to riches, the falsehood that most people look at this under the pretense of the success happened in such a rapid time. Most of it is because they see the end result. Because the person's successful, they're making a movie about him, they're making a movie about her, they're making a movie about them. So you know the end result. So now you're kind of going off of the circumstances in the journey. Well, people start to judge those in the journey, forgetting in live time the result wasn't there. There was no belief that it was going to actually pan out, except for the belief of the people who were going through that journey. Okay, but you have to manifest that it's actually going to happen. You have to see the end result in the beginning before you start the race, right? You have to see the finish line before you start the race. Otherwise, you're looking at all the other racers and you get discouraged thinking that you will never become the one who succeeds at the end. And you have to project that. You have to, say different type of
Crush all the struggles and pressures that get in your way, big or small, minor or major. We all are fighting demons that others do not know about. But it's how you handle it that makes it look easy. Shop at Mile.today. Again, Mile, M-I-L-E .today. Mile.today.
Okay, so the two things we're going to talk about today is in the description. But I'm going to start off with there's a difference between relatives and family. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between the two. And I'm going to break it down for you. In my opinion, in my experience, my viewpoint, my perspective, blood makes you relatives, but it doesn't necessarily make you a family. And what happens, and here's the reason why this stems from this. And there's a lot of people out there who can vouch for this. There are certain people in your family, there are certain relatives who just expect, because you come from the same lineage, certain things you should just automatically do, regardless of the circumstances of why they weren't there to begin with. There are certain relatives who feel, because I'm your father, because I'm your mother, because I'm your sibling, because I'm your uncle, because I'm your auntie, because I'm your kid, they have this entitlement of, you need to do this because of it, especially some of the elder ones, right? Especially those who come from an older generation. I'm not too keen on Gen X and the boomer and all that fun stuff, but those who know, you know. I am a firm proponent of do as I say, not as I do. I don't believe in that. I'm more of a, if you're going to talk the talk and walk the walk. But the way I phrase it is, if you're going to talk your walk, you better walk your talk. Like whatever you say, you better back that up. Because I understand that if you say you're going to do something and you do not do what you say you're going to do, there's no credibility for that. But if you say what you're going to do and you actually do it, whether you complete it or not, whether you accomplish it or not, just the fact that you put the effort in, genuine effort to accomplish that, I can get behind your words, because I know you're not going to suggest for someone to do something that you wouldn't do. Or you're going to try to just pull rank with somebody because you're older, or because of your generation, or because of your title of auntie, uncle, big brother, big sister, whatever. In my opinion, that's the definition of relative. Well, family is the opposite, right? Family is going to be there for you, and they're going to let you know, I got you. That's why family doesn't have to be blood related, in my opinion. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who agree with that. You pick up the phone, you give them a call. Even if they don't answer, they call you right back, or they communicate. You share things with them. You can confide things with them. They give you great advice. They put themselves in situations. Their ego isn't too big, whether they're older or they're more experienced or they're quote unquote better than you in something, to get in the way of listening to honest criticism. I have a lot of relatives who don't hear what it is that I have to say because they're older, so therefore my opinion is me. Even though I've lived my life, I have my experiences, I've done things that they have yet to do. And they have their opinion about what they haven't done or they haven't experienced. But because they're older, they have this thought process, you listen to me. And I understand that's the world that they came up in. That's the world that they grew up. So therefore, they're products of that environment. I understand that. But I try to explain to them that don't really mean anything with me as an individual. But family or people, even if they don't necessarily agree with your perspective, they at least attempt to have a dialogue with you, right? That's why you can easily have a brother or someone who's like a sister that isn't blood affiliated, but you guys are so damn close, right? And my older siblings are about a decade and a half or more older than me. So I feel closer to my nieces and my nephews because we spent more time together growing up. And my peers I went to school with, because, well, we spent more time together than people who are blood related. How do you guys feel about that? Do you agree with that assessment? Do you agree that there is a difference between relatives and family? Do you feel the definition that I gave is the same for you? Do you feel it's different? You guys can also, I gave you the social media to the Instagram and the Twitter at the E.I.T.H.R. But you guys can also download the Spreaker app, S-P-R-E-A-K-E-R. Create a profile, and you can find the E.I.T.H.R. podcast. And you can chit-chat and communicate with me while I'm live, and you can also chit-chat and communicate with us on the YouTube page. But on the Spreaker app, whether we're live or not, or you download a recording, you can also comment on that and communicate with me as well on what it is that you think on these topics. But that's my thing when it comes to relatives and when it comes to family. It just seems family have a different expectation and a different type of respect for you than relatives do, right? Family, again, from my stance, they have no problem telling you what you need to correct, as well as giving you credit for things that you have done correctly. There is no ego with that. They can learn equally as much as they can teach. They can at least have a civil conversation. Most relatives are so close-minded, and I get it. Listen, depending on your environment, depending on where you're from, depending on circumstance, I get it. I get it as a case-by-case scenario, because sometimes you no matter what, you better get my back no matter what. I feel a relative may put you into a situation intentionally because they know you have no choice but to get their back, right? Where a family member or someone you consider to be family would not only take in consideration, okay, this is my pride on the line, this is my situation on the line, but if I get involved with this, I got to bring in such and such and so and so. Do I want to get that far? No, I don't. Now, you have some family members that are relatives, but you also have some relatives that are family. I hope that didn't confuse anybody. I hope you understand the difference in what it is that I mean when I gave the definition of the two. But there's a lot of people who use these titles, use these meanings, and they twist them, or they manipulate them, or they try to guilt you into doing something. Listen, this is me. Again, a relative, I feel, is the kind of person that will try to guilt you into getting their way, because they'll use the whole family peer pressure thing, where a family member, I just have this thing, like a family member would just know better. People would know better not to put you in circumstances that will cause something to happen negatively down the line. Which is another reason why I feel like when you have really close friends, that's where you get this family-esque type of bond. Because of that. Again, if you guys can go ahead and give me your feedback on what you think, on what you believe, if you feel that you agree or disagree, it'd be great. It'd be great to get some feedback on this. But that's how I take it. That's how I see it. So we're going to get into the next topic. I want to get into, I feel this is equally important. As soon as we get right back. So you guys just hold on for the very last segment. I'm keeping this episode short, so you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'm having an allergy attack, so we'll be right back.
This is Dave in Auburn, California, and I'm listening to the E.I.T.H.R with Decal.
Sorry about that. I was going to come back a few seconds later, but then you know how you have to sneeze and you're waiting to sneeze and the sneeze is kind of just looking at you and you're staring at it and you're looking at it like, okay, go. And it's just smirking at you like, I don't want to. I feel like sneezes are like those independent women that just want to do what they want, but then it doesn't do it because it doesn't feel like it and you just got to deal with it. Anybody who knows, you know. So, I feel another one coming on, so please excuse me just one moment. Okay, so it went away. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick is, in a world full of lies, how do you know what's true? Right? Is truth perspective? Is truth documented? Is truth something that the masses believe? Is truth something that you experience? Is truth something that is just a matter of how it's delivered? Can you feel what's true? Or are you feeling what's biased? meaning what you're biased to, right? Because it honestly seems, especially more so in the information world, information generation, right? This tech generation, this tech era, there's so much information out there. But in addition to that, there's so many platforms for people to share their opinions. That's why I said at the top of this episode, what I try to do with my platform is give multiple perspectives from different opinions. Because unless you are the creator, how do you know what is accurate, right? So there might be something that someone explains to you about a topic that you know nothing about, or a topic you think you know something about, and they give you information that you never heard, you were unfamiliar with, and information that you possibly do not agree with. How would you know this information is actually accurate? Ask yourself that question, right? Because a lot of people, at least from my experience, when you have a conversation and you present them with something they weren't aware of, the first thing they do, in many cases, is deny it. And then they turn around and get the same information from a source that they tend to trust. Well, what made you believe that the information was inaccurate at the beginning? Is it because it came from somebody that you don't know? Is it because it came from information from a source that you're unfamiliar with? Is it because you only trust this one particular source? What makes you believe that the source that you trust is giving you accurate information? Another wrinkle to look at. What makes you think your source or the other source is telling the truth? Here's one to make you uncomfortable. What if both sources are telling the truth? They're just telling different aspects of it. Many people don't think about that, right? This is a reason why I've learned in the past, 10, 15 years. I try to keep all aspects of information relatively open. All because you don't agree with somebody's political perspective or their religious belief or their preferences in anything doesn't necessarily mean that their information is less important for you to know, right? Because I tend to look at this, your information is not credited if people don't believe in you in general. Or if people have this belief where they just don't trust you, even if the information is accurate. Does that make sense to anybody who's listening? So there was an article that I saw, and I shared this on my personal Facebook, but it's the truth, where Super Bowl happened, right? This past Sunday, and the Philadelphia Eagles, controversially, depending on how you look at it, they lost the game. But there were a bunch of Eagle fans who went to the streets and area that is 4th Street, and live, and cars, and burning jerseys, all the other fun stuff, right? Nobody batted an eye with that type of bandwidth. But when you talk about social justice issues, it's losing its writing. And there was this video a few years ago that I saw where you take college kids who are celebrating for their team, winning a rivalry game, winning a championship, and they're in the streets doing what they're doing. And then you take clips of people who are protesting, rioting, looting. Keep in mind, rioting, looting, and protesting are not the same thing. They're consequential of one another. People riot and loot when there is a protest, but the protesters aren't necessarily the people who are rioting and looting, because you do have people here in Northern California that will drive from these nice neighborhoods, and it has been documented as well, go to where people are protesting, tear the club up, right? They'll fuck shit up, they'll vandalize, they'll graffiti, they'll take what they want, and they drive their happy ass back to the gated community. So you have that, to keep that in mind. But this news took the commentary from, this video took the commentary from the news of the rioters and placed it on the video of the college kids, and took the commentary from the news of the college kids and placed it on the rioters. And if you really think about it, it was equivalent to one another. It gave you the description of what was happening, right? So how would you tell if what you're being presented with is actual truth? I think what happens is the source that you get the information from, you tend to trust that source. And whatever that source tells you, you hold as gospel. Well, I use the news as an example, as an analogy, because everyone has this understanding that depending on your news source is very biased politically. So my thing is this: you can agree with me or not, you can disagree with me or not. If you have two news sources and they're at the same event, natural disaster, a war catastrophe, a political gathering, they're going to tell you two separate sides of the same thing. It's almost like when you go someplace and multiple people, that movie Vantage Point with Dennis Quaid, I believe Sigourney Weaver was in it, Forrest Whitaker was in it, and a couple of people. You took multiple people who saw the same thing at an event, but they all had different stories of what they saw, looking at the same thing. So the question is, when you have a platform where people completely will lie or create a story or fabricate an art, I won't say fabricate, but create an article based on their opinion on what they think it is, and people believe it, yet they deny when someone shows them a third party, unbiased, vetted, sourced, documented video article of someone who was there. Why do you choose to believe the falsehood and not the actual truth? Very interesting. So I was kind of just wondering, why is it that people do that? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone break that down? Can anyone explain to me why that happens? Because honestly, truly, really, it's very frustrating when you know something's the truth. However, people don't want to hear it because it doesn't come from a source that they trust. So the question again is, how can one tell the difference between what is and what isn't? How do you personally decipher truth? Do you experience it? Do you hear the other person's perspective and kind of just fit the pieces in that way? Do you only get your source from one place and one place only, and If that's what they say, that's what it is. I've had a lot of conversations with people about certain issues that are going on with people. And if you pay attention to their words, it doesn't necessarily match the conversation. Because you'll sit back and say, here's a situation and we need to address it. But when you start having a conversation with them about that situation that needs to be addressed, most of their viewpoint is so distant from the solving of the problem. They get frustrated because the information that they're getting is not telling them the whole story. On top of that, when you're somebody who has literally experienced whatever the conversation is, you've been through it, whether it's an issue on birth control, whether it's an issue on social injustice, whether it's an issue on political involvement, whether it's an issue on community issues, whether it's an issue on education, whatever it may be. Why is it when people who aren't involved in said topic never want to hear it? Like, so again, how can somebody decipher false and truth? Man, why do we waste our time on trying to sell them something that they're not interested in buying? Yes, they have the right to do that. Yes, they have the perspective. Cool. But one of the things I noticed too on social media, like when you're having conversations about your sports team, or you're having conversations about a movie, this is a big one, right? Another case, MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. A lot of people hate certain movies or certain Disney Plus shows because of their own perspective of what they think is going on. And then you have a lot of people saying, well, if you're familiar with the comic book from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s, you would understand how this particular character is relevant. Most people look at the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as the gold standard of what these characters are about. Again, I don't know why people hated the TV show She-Hulk. I loved She-Hulk. I thought it was dope. I really did. I appreciated it. But so many people claimed that She-Hulk was, oh God, I hate this, woke and trying too much to be like Deadpool. If anyone understands, She-Hulk's been around for a minute, bruh. Like she has the same type of thing Deadpool does. The difference is she's not a mercenary, she's just a lawyer. But the information that they're getting, where's their truth coming from? Because wherever it is, obviously in this example, it's a lie, right? And I bring this up in conversation regularly. If you understand the MCU, the movie Age of Ultron, right? Tony Stark created Ultron. In the MCU, but if you understand the comic book, where all the movies are originating from, you grasp the fact Tony Stark didn't create Ultron. If you remember the movie Infinity War, when they went up to space, and Iron Man got Spider-Man the suit with the spider legs that popped out of his back. If you understand the comic book, Stark had nothing to do with that either. So, truth versus lies. How can you differentiate the two? Hit us on social media, man. The E.I.T.H.R podcast. We're going to be back again later on this week. The GNS Inc. on TikTok and YouTube. You guys be good. Stay blessed. We out.